How does a relationship with a narcissist even start? We're going to be going over 3 distinct things to look out for in this video. So let's first start out by saying that not all narcissists are the same or behave in the same way, because there are a variety of different types of behaviors and personality traits because there are different types of narcissists. For example, there's overt narcissists, there's covert narcissists, there are spiritual narcissists. Overt narcissists are more grandiose, they're more out there with their behavior, whereas covert narcissists are more subtle and sneaky and hidden. But a common theme and a common pattern among all narcissists is that they are highly self-centered, highly self-focused, and they only care about what they can get out of someone and how it can please and fulfill their needs. So in this video, I'm going to be going over 3 tactics that are very common patterns and things that we see in narcissistic relationships and in narcissistic people. So number 1, and I'm sure you've heard this term before, love bombing. This is the constant wanting to hang out in the beginning of the relationship. They're always complimenting you. They're making you feel so good about yourself. They do exaggerated gestures, planning things, going overboard. They spill their heart out to you early on in the relationship, like telling you I love you by week 2. They're just being emotional. So let's first define love bombing and what love bombing is. I'm going to be reading you guys a snippet from my book. So I wrote this book when I came out of my narcissistic relationship. God told me to write this book. So I said that they make you feel like you are the soulmate they have been looking for their whole life. By showering you with constant attention and compliments, you start to believe this person is everything you've been searching for too. They want to be with you 24/7 and spend time with you, which makes you feel loved, seen, and adored. They tell you everything you want to hear and will agree with everything you say to build a connection. They make you feel like no one has ever made you feel before. It's exciting and adventurous. How can you not become addicted to that? This is how the narcissist draws you in. It's all part of their grand plan. This stage is known as the love bombing stage. Love bombing is a manipulation tactic that narcissists use to get the victim attached to them by giving them excessive attention, admiration, and affection to make the victim feel dependent on them. They can even go out of their way to buy you over-the-top gifts after just meeting them to show their love. My ex bought me a piece of furniture after hanging out for only the 2nd time. So as you can see, love bombing is a very effective manipulation tactic that narcissists use to reel in their victims. You don't even recognize that it's manipulation because you're blinded by how good they're making you feel. And they do this to establish a deep emotional connection and for you to become dependent on their love. This is how they start making you become attached to them and fall for them early on in the relationship. And they will go full-blown love bombing mode for a few weeks to even a few months. And then they will start to taper off little by little once you become attached, which will make you start to feel confused because you're like, why are they being distant? But they do this on purpose because it's all just part of their game. The more inconsistent they are, the more confused you become. And this is just the beginning stages of how they start to mold you. In a way, they're training you and you don't even know it. And this is when the brainwashing starts. Now, some people will see this as a red flag and they will be turned off by this and leave and walk away from whatever this kind of relationship is. But when you are in a place that you are starving for love, you start to be blinded. You start to have rose-colored glasses on, which was me because I didn't have healthy boundaries and I was starving for love. And so I took this as a sign of adoration and love. I was not coming into this relationship with boundaries at all because I confuse these very same gestures with love because I have never experienced anyone treating me like that in any kind of relationship. I was like, wow, this is so amazing. This person really cares about me. This person wants to hang out with me all the time. I never saw that. So when we aren't used to that, we fall for these kinds of things and we can't see the manipulation. So I also didn't know that someone could be that evil and manipulative since I've never experienced that before. I really just truly trusted this person because it seemed genuine, and that's how sneaky it is because they come off genuine. Another manipulation tactic, this is still under love bombing, but another manipulation tactic that narcissists employ is a tactic called future faking. Now, this one is extremely manipulative and extremely effective. This is when the narcissist promises a future with you and talks to you about all the plans they have for you guys in the future, such as marriage, kids, where do you guys want to live, what kind of house you want to build. They start talking to you about all these things and they start making you visualize a perfect future with them. and they make it sound like a dream come true. This is just another brainwashing technique to get you to fall in love with them early on. And they tell you everything that you want to hear that you have never heard before from anyone else. And another way that they can do this is they will write you letters and poems and notes, and they will put these notes all over your house, and they'll write you how they've never felt this way about anyone else. They will be over the top sweet, like promising you everything under the sun, creating a fake reality that seems too good to be true. And it's because it is. And so I'm going to read you another part of my book of what I wrote about future faking. So I wrote, my ex used to write me many poems expressing his love for me and how we would get married and have this wonderful life. He would even print them out and give them to me. I thought this was so sweet and had never experienced a guy doing any of these things before. This is how narcissists will hook you. This is one of the many love bombing tactics known as future faking, which unfortunately is very effective. So the second thing is mirroring. And you might be asking, what is mirroring? So this is another manipulation tactic to create a false sense of connection by mirroring or mimicking the other person's thoughts, behaviors, feelings, interests, hobbies. Narcissists do this to establish a rapport and build connection. People connect on similarities, so narcissists will mirror themselves to be as similar as you. They will mirror your personalities, hobbies, beliefs, or whatever else. They will even say things like, wow, we're like the same person. How crazy. Oh my gosh, you're like the girl version of me. Wow, we are literally the same person. And of course, you will believe that because that's who they are being, and that's who you believe them to be. And I'm going to read you something from my book of what I wrote about what I endured going through my narcissistic relationship and how the narcissist mirrored me. Narcissists will even tell you how much in common you have and that you are practically the same person. My ex said this to me all the time. The grooming phase of the relationship is where they will observe, steal, and mimic all your best qualities and traits. They aim to make you believe they are your soulmate and the only one who will ever be this similar to you. It isn't normal for two people to be exactly the same in every way. Narcissists do this because they don't have an identity of their own. They will mimic each one of their victims and can be multiple people in different relationships. It's beyond creepy and it gives me goosebumps to think about. So that's what I wrote in my book. Mirroring is just a part of our natural human behavior. Like babies even mimic their parents and their interactions as a process of their natural development. But the difference between healthy mirroring and narcissistic mirroring lies in the underlying intentions and motives behind the behavior. So healthy mirroring is a positive way to connect with someone. You're caring, you're learning, you're empathizing, you're building a real, genuine connection. There are no ulterior motives or thoughts into doing that. It just comes naturally and unconsciously because there's a genuine connection. Now, on the other hand, narcissistic mirroring is self-serving and manipulative. They mirror their victims to get something out of it. There is an intention behind it. There is an ulterior motive behind it. And they do this as a way to control others, as a way to control their victims. They mirror others to gain trust, to gain admiration and control. It's not because they genuinely empathize with you or with their victims. But narcissists don't have an identity of their own, so they mirror yours to form one. They create an identity out of you. That's why narcissists, that's what I said in my book, that's why narcissists can be different people in each relationship because they mirror every single person who they are with. So they can be one way with this person and a completely another way with this person. And that's why not all narcissistic relationships are the same. They have the same groundwork of how they react, how they behave, but not every scenario, not every situation, not every single relationship is going to be the same because they will mirror the person that they are with. So let me give you a specific personal example of this that I wrote about in my book of how my ex mirrored me. I'll never forget the third or fourth time hanging out with my ex at my house, reading him my journal and talking about God. He asked, "Are you religious?" I said, "I don't like the word religion because religion separates people, but I do believe in God and I love God." He replied, "Oh, okay, because I'm not religious and I don't relate to any of that." Now listen. I should have known that was God's test for my love for him. I replied, then we aren't compatible and this won't work, because God is important to me and God needs to be important to the person I'm talking to or dating. And then he responded, well, yeah, I do believe in God. I just don't like overly religious people. So yeah, it's important to me too. And that's a perfect example of how mirroring is so manipulative, because at first he was saying that he doesn't do this because I questioned him on it. And then once I gave my opinion about it and my belief about it, then all of a sudden he mirrored me and said that he did believe in God and that it was important to him, when just 5 seconds prior he said that it wasn't important to him. So that is how narcissists will mirror you. They try to form a connection with you and they will try to be as similar as you, so that way you want to fall for them, you want to believe them, you build this connection with them on something that they don't even have. They're just using your identity and forming their own. As you can see how manipulative that was, if I would have trusted that red flag that God was clearly trying to show me, I wouldn't have even wasted one more day. But I thought he was being genuine. I didn't realize, I didn't know anything about narcissists. I've never discovered any kind of behavior like this. And so I genuinely believed him. I genuinely trusted him. But that was just a test that God was trying to show me that this is not the person for you, that this is a toxic person. And I thought he was being genuine, and boy, was I wrong. But God still used it. This is just a perfect example of Romans 8:28, that God works all things together for our good. So number 3 is they will test your boundaries. From the very first day of meeting you, whether on a dating app or whether you met them in person or texting or however you first started talking, from day one, they are testing your boundaries. It will be so subtle that you won't even realize, but they will say little things here and there and watch how you react. You might let little things slide in the beginning because you're thinking, it's just the beginning. I can't say anything too soon because I don't want to look crazy. So you let it slide. But on their end, they know that they have just widened the threshold. Let me give you a personal example of my own life, of my experience, is that I met my ex on a dating app and we were texting for a couple of weeks, like maybe a month and a half before we met in person. I was moving to the place where he was living at. And so that's why we were texting beforehand, that long before meeting. And during that time, he had never tried to FaceTime me or call me. And I didn't ask, but I did think it was weird how we never took the initiative to. But narcissists are so strategic, and that's why a lot of narcissists use dating apps. But he didn't want to give away all the red flags on a phone call, so we started to build the connection over texting, because it's easier to say all the right things and not get caught or slipping up on a phone call, because I probably would have caught on if I had that chance to be on the phone with him. But since there was already weeks of communication before meeting in person, I was already emotionally connected in some way. So during that texting phase, I was working on all the things that I was working on. I was a homebody. I worked from home. I stayed in. I didn't drink. I didn't party. I was asleep in bed by 10 p.m. every night and had an early gym routine and etc. Okay. And he seemed the same, always at home texting me, saying the same things I was into, but once again, mirroring. I didn't know that at the time, but so I thought, okay, it was all just lies. But one night he slipped up because he was drunk texting me and was out at a bar and sending me all these crazy texts saying he bought Coke from his Coke dealer and his friends left him at the bar, so he went home, and then he started texting me. And I remember reading that text and saying, ew. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like telling my girlfriend about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's definitely a no. That's a red flag. And I stopped texting him that night because, ew. But the next morning, he started sending me all these texts saying he doesn't do drugs and that was his old life and he never goes out and blah, 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 blah. And I specifically asked him if he was a partier or a drinker and does drugs. And he said, not anymore. It just didn't make any sense. So, and I didn't know him that well yet. So I didn't want to keep being like, okay, well, I don't know. I would definitely have the boundaries now to be strong enough to say something. But at the time I didn't have the boundaries. And I just thought that, okay, I'm just going to let this slide. Mistake. I'm just going to let this slide. And so after that, it just didn't make any sense. So narcissists love to make you feel confused. This is part of their tactics. And this is what's known as cognitive dissonance. They don't even know what they are saying. They don't even know the lies that they're saying. And so they know what they are saying doesn't make sense either, but they do this to confuse you. And then they confuse themselves. Like they don't even know what they're saying. But it's all part of their confusing tactics. So, but this was the point where he was testing my boundaries and it worked. I believed him and I let it go. And obviously months into the relationship, I realized that that was all lies. He was addicted to coke, addicted to weed, had a drinking problem, lied all the time to try to hide it, and all sorts of other addictions. But he tested my boundaries from day one to see how I would react that very first night. He probably planned that, who knows? And because I let that slide, he knew he could widen the threshold and that I would continue to believe and forgive him. So narcissists will continue to widen the threshold until it's as wide as it can be. And then next thing you know, it's too late to go back to having boundaries. Any boundaries that you once had at the beginning of the relationship, non-existent now, completely gone. So that was just one of many examples that I had. But I tell you these things so that you can be more aware of these subtle tactics that you might confuse as love or adoration. Normal, healthy relationships do not form this way, you guys. They are built on genuine connection and care. They take time to build trust and have healthy boundaries, which are respected and not forced. So I just hope that this helped you recognize these signs early on in narcissistic relationships, because if I would have known these things beforehand, I would have dodged a major bullet and years of my life. But now God used my experience to help others out there who don't have any idea and to save them from the chaos that comes with these types of situations and insidious relationships. So when God saved me from this, I committed my yes to him. I gave him my yes, and I committed my life to helping others get out of these toxic relationships and see the signs to avoid them. And so I wrote a book on this to help others heal, and I now coach women all over the world, helping them leave these toxic or narcissistic relationships and heal. So if you need help or coaching or feel led to book a coaching call with me, I would highly recommend it. And you can't do this on your own. You need support, and I promise you that I will help you the entire way. So if I'm speaking to you, if you feel led to book a coaching call with me, the link is in my bio. Or if you just want to start by reading my book has helped and healed hundreds of women all around the world. But my book link and website will be in the link in my bio or my description box if you're watching this on YouTube. But that's all I have for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.